We are the Liberty Intelligence Organization Network.
And this is our daily report. I am your host, Ricky Phillips, and it is Tuesday, January 21st, 2014. For those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, basically we are a news organization that is primarily focused on informing people about their basic civil liberties and exposing any potential threats to their freedom. The overall goal of the Liberty Intelligence Organization Network is the absolute annihilation, politically and ideologically, of all institutions associated with the criminal organization known as the New World Order. But basically today is a little bit short, a little bit light on the news side, so I'm just going to try to go through it real quick here and make this a little bit of a brief one because I've only got, so much time in the day, and I've got about a million things to do, and I never get done everything I want to get done. So I'm going to rush here through the news. Usually the daily reports are going to be about 20 to 30 minutes. This one might be a little bit shorter just because I don't have as much to go through. But again, it is January 21st, 2014, and let me just get straight into the news. The first topic for my coverage here today is going to be going over some Obamacare news. And the headline is, Computer Security Expert Claims He Hacked the Obamacare Website in 4 minutes. And this comes out of LibertyBlitzkrieg.com. And basically, the hacking expert, David Kennedy, he's an hacking expert, and he admitted that he was able to hack into the Obamacare website and gain access to 70,000 personal records, and it only took him 4 minutes. So basically what he's saying is there's no security measures in line for healthcare.gov. Any hacker can get into there in 4 minutes or less and get 70,000 personal records. Now, Mr. Kennedy admitted that he stopped after he took 70,000. He said he could have taken more, but he'd already proven his point, and his point was that healthcare.gov is not secure. His actual quote is 100% insecure. So basically, don't put your information on the Obamacare website. If you want to get health care and you're struggling, and I understand now the government's forcing you to do it, it's putting an added stress on every single person I know. And the healthcare.gov website is not going to help you. All it's going to do is put your personal records out there so that anybody can get them. Anybody who has any inkling of hacking knowledge can get into the healthcare.gov website and just take your bank account numbers, your credit card number, social security numbers, address, everything. It's right there on the Obamacare website on healthcare.gov, and any hacker can get it. Basically, is what David Kennedy was. It was during a committee hearing in Congress when he revealed that it only took him 4 minutes to hack right into the website. So more bad news for Obamacare. But again, it doesn't look like the politicians are going to try to stop it because again, the Obamacare, in essence, the Affordable Health Care Act isn't really an act. It's just like Chief Justice Roberts said when he allowed it to go through. He said it's a tax, and that's what it is. It's a tax. They're forcing you to pay money directly to the insurance companies. For those of you who don't know, insurance companies, whether it be auto insurance, whether it be health insurance, whether it be life insurance, all the insurance companies are just a front group for banks. The insurance companies, in most cases, are owned by a bank, and by forcing people to get insurance, you're basically forcing people to pay a tax to the bank. Now, granted, you're supposed to get something in return, but I believe, as we're going to see over the next couple of years, you're not going to get very much in return. So that being said, let me switch gears here into some economic news, and the headline here is the $23 trillion credit bubble in China is starting to collapse. Global financial crisis next? Question mark? And this one's from Michael Snyder out of Economic Collapse, and basically he's saying that what happened was back in USA back in 2008 when the Lehman Brothers collapsed, their credit system collapsed, it threw our economy into deadlock, and we've really been going downhill, even though the mainstream media is going to tell you that the economy is improving. It's really not improving, and there's a million reasons why, but I don't want to go over it because I'm trying to focus on this one article right here. But when that happened in 2008, when the Lehman Brothers collapse happened here in the U.S., private domestic credit in China rose from $9 trillion to $23 trillion. That means people were buying more on credit. The credit system in China went up. People started using more credit system, and more of China credit markets became more viable for creditors. And it increased. Well, now there's a concern that the bubble there is about to burst, and the rising debt from increased credit usage has led to tremendous economic growth in China, but leaves companies in China with trillions of dollars in interest payments. They're learning that they're paying more than they made from the crediting, and that's causing a flux in the Chinese market. And basically, economists, that's what I sometimes call them, economists are predicting that China's credit bubble will burst on January 31st. So by the end of the month, they're saying in about 10 days that China's credit market's going to burst, and that could cause a global financial crisis. And of course, how does this affect your liberty? Well, it could basically destroy all your property. Whatever value you have on your property, it's going to be worth less and less and less. The more of this inflation going on around the world, the more the markets crash. It's basically, things have a value as things, not as a monetary worth. For example, this fan right here, it's maybe I mean, it's used, it's old, it's a little bit gungy, but maybe $5. If you want to put a monetary value on this fan. But we have to stop thinking about things in terms of the monetary value. You got to think of this thing as a fan. It's valuable as in it's got plastic here, it's got some screws in it, it's got some metal, it's got some bolts. That's its value. Its value is in its physical property, not in its monetary worth, because its monetary worth is constantly changing. And really, if you didn't realize it right now, the market's already gone. We're operating under this fake delusional system right now that's being propped up and held up by the printing of money, and the markets have all been rigged. It's the only reason there is any markets right now is because the money printing is ensuring that the markets are going to have some sort of intake. But again, if this China credit bubble bursts, who knows what it could cause? Worldwide, it could cause a lot of markets to crash. But like I said, the most important thing for people to understand about the economy right now is you have to stop thinking about things in monetary worth. You got to start thinking about things in their physical value. A piece of wood, $2. But really, its value is that piece of wood, what you can do with it. You can put it up. It could be a piece of the wall for your house. It could be a leg for a table. It could be a drawer bottom. What is the value of the wood as a thing, not the value of it and its monetary value? Because there's a good chance that all the money we have in today, the dollar, the yen, the whatever, the peso, that could all be gone. We could switch to something new in the very near future. And the UN actually has plans to do that, and I've gone over that in earlier videos. Now, switching gears into the final news topic for this daily report here, and I'm going to be going over some police state news. And the first headline here comes out of Infowars.com from Steve Watson, and the headline is "Lawsuit: LA cops tased man's genitals until he could smell his flesh burning." And basically, a new lawsuit was opened in federal court, being heard over the LA Sheriff's Department sheriff's deputies who assaulted and tased a young black man over a dropped cigarette. And basically what it was there was an older man, it was the gentleman's father. He dropped a cigarette, and the police began to write him an $1,000 fine plus 8 hours of community service for dropping a cigarette on the ground. Now, the black man, the young black man, is 26-year-old Daniel Johnson. He attempted to defend his father. He told the police, "My father has nerve damage in his hand. He didn't mean to drop the cigarette. It just, his hand had a twitch, and he dropped it. It's not an intentional littering or whatever the citation is." But the cops didn't want to hear any of it, and they began to assault him from that point. The moment he tried to just mention to the cops, "Hey, by the way, my dad didn't do that on purpose. He has a nerve injury," and the cops proceeded to assault him. And during the assault, they even punched his father in the face. So, and they didn't even respond to him. Like, he's like, hey, by the way, my father has nerve damage. Boom, boom, and they just, go after him. And eventually they started tasing him. They aimed the taser not at him, but at his genitals, and shocked him up to 10 times. And it turns out that the deputy responsible for this, assault on this civilian, on this citizen, it has received multiple complaints of excessive force. So basically, the take-all is that officer, that deputy, should be removed. Now, a little bit of news is whenever you hear about police state news, about the police doing corrupt activity, it always tends to be the sheriff's departments, and that's because of the federalization that went on during the 90s and the early 2000s, and it still continues to this day, where sheriff's departments are being federalized. They're getting federal money, they're getting federal grants, they're getting federal training, and they're basically becoming a federal police force. They're not a local sheriff's department anymore. They're really just a branch of the federal police force. And it always goes back to the sheriff's deputies. Whenever they assault somebody, it always goes back to sheriff's deputies. I don't know why. Probably because they've all been federalized and they're all being trained to treat the public the same way. And of course, that they're being trained to be the enforcement arm of the criminal organization known as the New World Order. So the police, yes, are becoming gangsters, criminals. It's very skeptical. I mean, even on some traffic stops, they've just outright murdered people, and they're getting off scot-free. As I went over the other day with that one happened in California, the mentally ill guy that was homeless, and the cops just jumped on him and started beating him up, and he eventually dies. And the cops, just go home scot-free. Here's your pay. Have a good day. Nobody got in trouble. But again, as I mentioned, it always goes back to the deputies. The sheriff's departments are all being federalized, and they always do the most corrupt, most vicious things to people. More police state news. Headline here is Utah police obtain grenade launchers, riot gear from the feds. Yes, yes. Part of the federalization is, as I mentioned, they're getting funds. They're getting weapons, they're getting armor, they're getting armored tanks, they're getting mine-sweeping detection software, and all types of stuff. But basically, this article, again out of Infowars.com, says for the past 5 years, the Pentagon has equipped dozens of Utah police departments with a wide variety of military riot gear. Basically, it just shows a continuation of, the government buying billions of bullets, the government buying all these things, DHS preparing, every department within the federal government has been training their employees on how to use firearms, on how to, do all this stuff. And at the same time, they've been building up local community police forces into these semi-paramilitary assault squadrons. And it just shows that they're anticipating in the near future that they may have to resort to some sort of martial law scenario where everyone will be in lockdown, police will be out on the streets with tanks and machine guns aimed at you and questioning everything you do. So it just shows more of a gear up towards a near future martial law scenario. Are they gearing up because they're planning to instigate some sort of an event that will require martial law, or are they doing it because they think something might go wrong? And of course there's tons of things. Like I mentioned, the markets could crash, people's identities being stolen, people could lose everything they got. There's so many things, chemical, nuclear attacks, the potential of World War III. There's a lot of things going on that could lead to a martial law scenario within the United States of America, whether it's being staged by the New World Order or whether it's an actual real event. Regardless, they are gearing up for it. Local police, federal police, military, state, county, local, national, all levels of government are prepping for a martial law scenario in the near future. Now, final bit of news here for today, final headline, again, continuing with more police state news. And the headline here is U.S. Army Elite Special Forces train with local cops in a secretive joint exercise. And basically, reports out of South Carolina reveal that, guess what, a sheriff's department, as I mentioned, it's always the sheriff's departments. A sheriff's department in South Carolina is participating in a secret drill with an unnamed military units out of Fort Bragg. Now, for those of you who don't know, the only reason we're saying Special Forces units is because Fort Bragg is historically the headquarters for the Army's most elite units. It's where the Special Forces are based. It's where Delta Force is based. And Delta Force was really the driving force behind the federalization of sheriff's departments. So there's a good chance that whatever group these police in South Carolina are training with, probably Delta Force, because they tend to be the force that was instigating this whole secretive federalization of sheriff's departments. But that about does it for today's news, today's daily report. Those were the top headlines that I was able to gather. There's tons more that I didn't have time to go over, but those were the main headlines I wanted to get through, and I was able to get through them. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And again, this was the Liberty Intelligence Organization Network Daily Report for Tuesday, January 21st, 2014. I was your host, Ricky Phillips, and as always, I want to remind everybody to stay safe, to stay strong, to stay free, and to stay informed.